Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zibello, to this nice Pallavicino Theatro.
Municipality, we start our first international summit of rivers and lakes, Cittaslow. A big honor to have you here together. It is important to open the Cittaslow International Assembly in Parma 2023. Please, the mayor is Massimo Spigaroli, is the man that coordinated and would strongly the assembly in his land, fantastic land in the Po River surrounding. Please, Massimo, for your welcome.
Onorato di avervi qui.
I am really honored to have you here in Zibello, in this theater that was created in the 18th century. We have rebuilt and renovated it because we feel it as the soul of our little village. Theaters are the soul of Italian cities, and we do need to preserve them. To show you a video of our territory, then I'll move on with my speech. Thank you.
It is a slice of fat land, sprawled along the right bank of the great river, where there are long, straight streets, small houses painted in red, yellow, and blue, and everything seems lost among the tree flags. With these words, the writer Giovannino Polesine, father of Don Camillo novels and son of this hidden gem called Casa Parmense, described his little world, his mondo piccolo, a small world perhaps in size, but boundless in wealth and beauty. Should this glimpse of flat land be used, Giuseppe Verdi, who used to live not far from here, would have recounted it with the notes of a force and a destiny that made a tiny remnant of land on the border between Emilia and Pavia famous throughout the world. A land which is almost a disputed kingdom between the three cities of Parma, Cremona, Piacenza, the Via Emilia, and the winding beds. Singing such unique landscape with the intense and passionate register of his voice for Lieutenant Pallavicino, and again, should it do, he would have been shot by director Bernardo Bertolucci, another singer of the charm of this slice of frontier. Welcome to the Casa Parmense, land of writers, artists, and melodrama, home of flavors, tastes, and strong passions. The Po River that gently flows, but also knows how to stir its waters in summer. Polesine, Zibello. The villages have cozy porticos to protect the souls of those who live there. Here, ancient recurring stories tell about miracles and the saints of those who knew how to overcome and be born at every flood of the Here, important pages of history and art have been written thanks to the enlightened vision of power, carried on over the centuries by the Pallavicino family, rulers of the land. Here, the superstar cheese is made as it once was. Only good men and lots of tradition. This is how Parmigiano was born. It has 1,000 years of history, and each piece is a brand new legend. Here, between the heat and sun and the frost, some of the most famous tree products in the world exist. Zibello, with its feel, just to certify the essence of art. But also vision has given the last time universal fame without any instances. Really, rather, really, where is the ground and but it is not being a star, Sara is the being completely functioning things. For the Lord, just every child is not is precious. Here, traditions and knowledge, recipes and flavors of nature are handed down from generation to generation, with the accuracy of secrets that must be whispered from mother to child. Here are the women of the Casa. Their thought is good, halfway housewives, halfway queens. Indeed, they are like ancient vessels of taste. Their every gesture is made up of details, and every detail makes the difference between an artfully stuffed fresh pasta and a tasty fillet, so light and similar to the typical fowl border most fertile units to cultivate new ambitions and grow the next decade. Where a good story has already been written, there is always room to add another, especially in Islam, where, as Giovanni Polesine used to say, everything tastes like a fairy tale.
Bene, purtroppo non possiamo
Well,
visitare
we
tutte le
cannot have you
nostre
visit
perché
the entire
abbiamo
village
tante cose da
because
dire,
we have
ma
many
adesso
things to say today, and then we will move to Parma tomorrow, after which you will visit Pellegrino Parmense, Fontanellato, Borgotaro, all the Cittaslow in the Parma territory. We have been at Cittaslow for 20 years now, and this recognition has contributed to the choices we've made for our territory. We have become the city of bees. That was last year. And as soon as our administration took power, we launched a wonderful project to clean the Po River, to clean the world. We have cleaned all our areas along the Po River. We collected plastics along the riverside. And the productions of the industries of our territory just took action to give a slice of culatello for each bag made of plastic. Culatello being the most important foodstuff in our territory, which you will taste tonight and tomorrow as well, tomorrow for lunch. So we have received this international award, and we would like to thank all the people who helped us, with special reference to our schools who collaborate with us on these green projects. Another important thing I would like to mention, and which is fundamental for our territory, is the constant contact with our river. The river has always brought about innovation, positive contamination. It has always brought people from other territories here, and they contaminated our territory. We were very lucky. This hasn't been the case for the past 50 years. And we have been quite lucky, I must say, because when we were born again, when we focused on the safeguard of the environment, our territory is still preserved, is still natural. So we have been able to use our awareness to improve it even further. We have adopted a very important panel made by a Turkish artist. We have placed it along our riverside. We will keep it and maintain it with utmost care. I was born here. I was born by the river. The river has always been very, very close to my house. We live well with the river. We're not afraid of the river. I was a child when I put my feet in the water. I could see my feet through water. Then, after a few years, the water became brown and I couldn't even see my fingers if I placed them in them. Now the water is clean again. We can see our feet in it. So I would like to thank all the people who are supporting us. I would like to thank the people who support us in maintaining water in good condition. Water is life. Thank you.
And now the stage to our president of Cittaslow International, Mauro Migliorini, for the greetings speech. Please, Mauro.
Grazie. Grazie. Buonasera.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Welcome to you all. I would like to give a special greeting and thanks to Massimo Spigaroli, Mayor of Polesine, and Zibello, who's hosting us in this Cittaslow, in this nice hamlet, in this wonderful theater, which has a long-lasting history. I would also like to thank the guests, visitors, and speakers who welcomed our invitation to deliver their presentations this afternoon on a very special topic within this first international summit of rivers and lakes, Cittaslow. Well, talking about water today may be nonsensical in some ways because many international territories either lack water or have too much of it. Talking about water, on the other hand, means talking about life. Our body is made of water. 70% of it is made of water. So water is an essential element, a key element for our life. It's essential to upkeep our territories. And Mayor, let me tell you that it's quite significant that such a small village, around 3,000 inhabitants, is welcoming this first international summit, liaising with metropolitan areas, cities having millions of inhabitants. Well, these very small villages, these Cittaslow, always give us some key elements, key topics when we talk about water. The mayor says that 50 years ago, when he placed his feet in the water, he could see them, even if the water level was high. He could see the fingers of the toes in his feet. But then, after a few years, that was no longer possible because the river was contaminated, polluted. But nowadays, water is getting cleaner and cleaner. Water is becoming clean again. And what does this mean? What the biodiversity connected to rivers, to lakes, to the riverbeds and the riversides are going back to the condition which we humans have somehow spoiled. If we want to talk about tourism, sustainable tourism, if we want to talk about cycling lanes or pathways along the riversides or the lakesides, we always have to keep an eye on cleanliness of the environment. This hamlet involved all the players in the territory, including children, to collect plastics along the Po River sides. I think this is the best message we can send out at international level from a small hamlet. That is, it is possible. We can live with the river. We can govern the frantic movement of the waters. How? Becoming players of the environment. And we, the administrators, are on the front line. We are, of course, supported by environmental associations and by experts who can give us some practical examples, which we are going to share with you today. I hope you will have a nice day. Thank you very much, President. Now, I would like to give the floor to our Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Daniela Santanchè, who's not here with us, but who sent us a video with her greetings. Yes, before we watch the clip, I would like to point out that this is a daring hamlet. This is why we decided to invite the minister. Her presence here was confirmed until last week, but she couldn't be here today. We dared to invite her. We did whatever we could. We are a small community of 3,000 souls. But we managed to collect 5 million euros to be spent on the territory on different projects which have an environmental impact, an impact to the benefit of the community. So I would like to thank all the people who work in our offices, around 15 people. They are all very committed people who work day and night to help us. This is an evident sign of of their feeling of belonging to our community. Sorry, it is not a clip, it's a letter that the minister has written. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the Councillor for Culture of the Municipality of Polesine Zibello, so I'm happy to welcome you here to our theatre. As the mayor said, we were expected to have the Minister of Tourism here with us today, but she couldn't be here for other commitments, engagements that she had. And she sent us a letter, which I'm going to read out to you. Today, you're holding the first international summit of rivers and lakes Cittaslow, which has been a brand of quality and a consolidated reality with 88 municipalities in Italy. This is a positive phenomenon of aggregation of great importance, a circuit of excellence which helps promote projects to improve people's and the planet's life. Circular economy, resilience, sustainability, culture and social justice, as well as good food and local products are the key elements. The founding elements of Cittaslow are the same as those for 2027 and strategies that we are implemented in our ministry with different specific financing fundings. I would like to remember the Fund for Sustainable Tourism, which amounts to 25 million euro to foster the ecological transition of our sector with the objective of tackling the phenomenon of over-tourism with non-invasive tourism. For example, slow tourism, which you are promoting through a synergetic action on the territory. Thanks to initiatives like yours, we can put together strategies that are aimed at enhancing the Italian excellences and all the beauties that make our nation the most beautiful nation in the world. Strengthening the synergy between my ministry and the mayors and their territories is one of my main goals. Only working together can we achieve important targets. I'm sure that your experience, your knowledge, your immense shared heritage will enable us to walk a nice path together for the wealth of our nation. So I hope you will have fruitful work days for your summit. I will read the outcomes of the summit to draw some useful suggestions for future and current strategies of our ministry. Signed, the Minister of Tourism, Daniela Santanchè. Thank you very much, and a special thanks to all the participants whom I will introduce and who will give life to this summit. First of all, Giuseppe Roma, an architect. I'm sure you know him. He's been in our scientific panel since our onset, and he will be coordinating this summit together with me. Then we also have engineers Gianluca Zanichelli and Mrs. Filippi from the Po River Interregional Agency. They will give a presentation on intervention in the Po Basin. Then we have the mayor of Hadong, Mr. Hasu Chol, who will talk about the Seomyang River, environmental and geographical aspects. Then we also have the deputy mayor of Sangju, Choi Woo-jin, who will be dealing with the Nakdongang River. We know the touristic resources it offers. Then we will listen to Mrs. Hanna Wisniewska, who is the head of ecological policies and nature at the Marshal's office at Warmia-Mazurian Voivodeship in Poland. And then we will listen to Professor Isotta Cortesi, who's a teacher of landscape architecture at the University of Parma. She will be talking about the recovery of the natural element of rivers, which we have made too much man-like in the past decades. Then we will listen to Professor Xiong Wuping, the center of Jiangbei, China, Nanjing, who is representing the Chinese network of Cittaslow. Then we have Mr. Jos Hessel, mayor of Echtschusteren, Cittaslow in the Netherlands, who will be talking about the Meuse River project. These are the speakers for this afternoon. They will be talking about different topics, all focused on the main topic of rivers and water. Just a couple of words as introductory words. As Mayor Spigaroli, I was born not far from here, on right-hand side affluent of the Po River. And I confirmed that when we were kids, we swam, we could bathe in the river. But then suddenly we saw fish dead in the river, and then foam, pollution. My river was dead. The river became something to move away from. Our river became something we could not have fun with. But the situation is new now. We still have fish in the water. The water is cleaner and cleaner because it is respected. In the end, we have learned to respect water in general, of all rivers. But of course, there is much work to do. Water is at the center of all our interests, as our president specified. Water is essential for life. Water is essential for human life, for animal life. It is essential for plant life. It's essential for production. It's essential for primary and industrial production as well. Water is necessary for civil coexistence. If we look at history, think about all the wars that were waged, that were started for war in the past. Water is the primary condition for and of civilization. And Western civilization, as we know, was born between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, in an area between Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. And we have Nihat Ozdal from the Cittaslow of Alfei, who is a poet, a writer, a promoter, an international promoter of culture, who yesterday gave us donated an artistic installation to us, which together with Mayor Spigaroli was placed in the water. His words, his poems were written on marble, and the marble was placed on the Po River water. The Po still today can spread these sentences of memory which talk about the river, which are the historical. The Babylon culture had two goddesses, one for fresh water and one for salted water. Two goddesses divided between fresh and salted water.
So thank you to Nihat Ozdal that inspires all the mayors of slow food cities and also the citizens of these cities, because it inspires them to defend and protect the quality of their waters, because we all know that the quality with water is either too much or too poor. We need to rethink of the use of water, the agricultural use of water, industrial use of water. We can no longer accept to waste water in 21st century, because fresh water and rivers themselves are the drives for the resilient and sustainable development that is to be promoted all over the world. So I stop here focusing on this point, and I'm by underlying the fact that I'm really very happy of this meeting today. So the very beginning of a new topic for the slow cities. And so now I would like to give the floor to Professor Roma, representing the steering scientific committee of the International Slow City Network. I just would like to underline the important mission played by rivers. Rivers attach a great importance to cities on the territories. Without the rivers, the cities would have been created. All the cities have been established next to a river. So today in this summit, we're going to listen to the projects and the ideas with this respect, because the relationship between cities and rivers and lakes can really be a positive relationship. We have already been pointing out that rivers are clean, and today we can find cleaner water because the rivers can epurate themselves. If the use of rivers, the exploitation of rivers is too high and too heavy, this will no more be possible. So we must be careful to this, because we are going to face great problems related to climate change, because unfortunately this leads us to be unaware of what is going to happen in the future. So according to me and to us all, it is fundamental to behave in a resilient and sustainable way by respecting the rivers. The rivers flow in their own direction. And so we have to support this, and we have to promote a sustainable development and a sustainable use of these waters, because the citizens in these areas, for instance, still love to bathe in their rivers. Once upon a time, you used to bathe and to swim in these rivers, but even in Rome, not that much time back in the past, every year on the first day of the year, some of the elderly used to bathe and swim in the river. So I really hope that this international summit be inspirational towards the development of new projects, and that it really helps us to deepen the topics so that we can circulate all over the world the very best ideas with this respect. So having said this, I think that we could start by giving the floor to the speakers of this afternoon. And so I would like to give the floor to Mr. Gianluca Zanichelli and Ms. Federica Filippi, that are going to talk us about a renaturation project concerning the Po River. The Po River is the greatest river in Italy. It comes from the Alps, it crosses the Po Valley, and it then gets to the sea. And it carried over sediments in the years, by therefore creating the Po Valley. So in its flow towards the sea, it has always been carrying with the waters sediments, pebbles, mud, by creating the very Po Valley. So I give you the floor, Mr. Zanichelli. So you've been mentioning the fact that the Po River has its source in the Alps, and it's not by chance that we showed you some images of the river Pellice, in which we started one of the very first renaturation projects that is coming to a conclusion in these very days. So I would like to give you a short explanation about AIPO. AIPO is an agency comprising Emilia-Romagna, Lombardy, Piedmont, and Veneto, so 4 regions, and it has its operational premises in Parma, near to the provinces of Polesine and Zibello, which used to be the seat of institutions dealing with the Po River and fresh waters in general. And then we also established a scientific pole in Boretto, a few kilometers away from here. And AIPO monitors 3,948 kilometers of rivers, and it manages the river banks, 3,323 kilometers of river banks. So what about the competence of AIPO? First of all, hydraulic safety, and then the management of the rivers that belong to the state. Then AIPO is also in charge of monitoring sailing and navigation, and also the use of the environment, surrounding environment. And with this respect, we until recently concluded the creation of a cycle lane running along the river banks of the Po River. We took some win-win measures. What do we mean by win-win measures? We mean measures towards which we are orienting ourselves in order to bring back its naturalness to the river. Then we are going to listen to the intervention of Ms. Filippi, who is filling in for Ms. Vergnani, who is not here today due to an institutional commitment. So what can we do in order to give back its naturalness to the Po River and its waters? We can try to manage and monitor the riverbeds and try to improve our ability to contain the water so as to reduce the floods, the risk of floods. Now I would like to talk to you about this renaturation intervention about the Pellice River. The Pellice River crosses the metropolitan city of Turin. And the most important torrent in the area of Turin is the Pellice stream. So we started some years ago this win-win approach in order to obtain good results, not only from an environmental improvement, but also in order to protect the river. Of course, climate change brought about drought, so that many of the streams surrounding the Pellice River are dry or become dry by entailing erosion in the lateral areas of the river, and also a decrease of the species that inhabit the area. Here you can see some pictures of the river Pellice. From the left hand to the right hand, you can see the Zucchea passage that deteriorates the environment of Pellice. And we can also see some plants, vegetable plants that are coming from abroad and that are replacing the local vegetation and that are extremely damaging. Here you can see some of the interventions that we started some years ago. They are all in progress and they are quite in a good stage. And the typical hydraulic interventions include a series of works that go towards the improvement of the hydraulic and environmental characteristics of the river by creating new refuge areas for the fishes and also creating new opportunities for vegetable species that usually proliferate in wet lands around the river. And these interventions have been performed by improving not only the hydraulic characteristics of the riverbed, by moving the stones and the rocks onto the riverbed, but also intervening on the vegetation. In these pictures, we can see some of the works that have been performed, in particular the opening of side branches of the river. And here there has been a final inspection on one of the intervention we performed, thanks to a flood that occurred at the end of May, and everything worked perfectly. Here from the satellite, we can see again some lateral branches of the river and also some new bends of the river. Here you can see the introduction of new riparian vegetation on the riverbanks. Here, some images representing the flood that occurred back in May. And here, the island within the bands of the river. And you can see these images that we took from the drone. So now I would like to give the floor to Miss Filippi, that is going to talk to you about a project that is now in progress, and it is in an early stage, which is concerning the renaturation of the main branch of the Po River.
Thanks to our two engineerings, because it is very interesting to know how it is managed, our biggest and longest river, Po.
Me la può anche mettere visibile poi? Cosa devo schiacciare? Andare avanti. Oh. Va bene, grazie. Buongiorno a tutti.
So good afternoon, everyone. As my director has anticipated to you, I'm Miss Filippi, filling in for Miss Vergnani. And I'm going to talk to you about an intervention that has been funded by the recovery plan. As you can see from the synthetic data that we've been summarizing in this slide, the recovery plan, and in particular within Mission 2, Green Revolution and Ecological Transition, our project has been coordinated by the Ministry of Environment and Energy Safety, and the implementing player, the implementing subject is IPO, that is the Interregional Agency for the Po River. And this project involves 4 different Italian regions: Piedmont, Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, and the Venice region. If you are not aware of this, this recovery plan entails the realization of milestone and targets that need to be fulfilled so that the European community can release the funds that have been approved. So the first action plan was approved in 2022 by identifying a whole series of interventions. What is the principle that has been inspiring this program? It is a plan that has been drawn by the Po River Authority in order to guarantee hydraulic safety by avoiding the usual and traditional works, because our territory is nowadays saturated by this kind of interventions. We tried to make the most of the river itself and its processes at a geomorphological and geo-environmental way, by protecting the river from an ecological and environmental way. So what can we do? What is the challenge that we need to take? I would like to remind you that the recovery fund projects need to be concluded by June 2026. So it is a real huge challenge. In this slide, you can see the distributions of the different interventions. So 56 sites of interventions along the riverbed of the Po River that you can see in red. So the first group of interventions is in the area of Turin in Piedmont, and then the final part of the interventions concerns the delta of the Po River in the Venice region. So, as I pointed out before, 56 intervention sites, 106 municipalities involved, 12 provinces, and 4 different regions. All of these areas fall within what have been called Nature 2000 sites, and there are 42 that identify some areas in which a certain environmental quality has been identified, and that must be kept all over the time through proactive measures in order to improve the environment that in this stretch of territory includes 29 protected areas. So what about the interventions that we planned? We planned the reduction of the size and the dismantling of works, not of river sides and river banks, but of works that were used in order to avoid the river flow to change. So we are going to discontinue or modify 6 of these works that we call defense works, and we are going to adopt 29 branches for the sailing of ships and boats. So this stretch of the Po River, as a matter of fact, can be sailed. And so in order to avoid that all of the current is scattered in side branches, we adopted 29 measures to better channel the currents of the river flow. And so, thanks to this activity, we either eliminate or decrease these side branches so that the oxbow lakes are reactivated. I would like to show you two more figures. One of the interventions that were planned were the digging of the riverbed, but we're not going to perform this planned digs, and we are going to postpone this intervention because we are absolutely convinced that the previous interventions that I've been describing will give positive impacts on the river. Then we are also going to carry out interventions in order to restore the wild forest and naturalistic value of the ecosystem and of the area. In this slide, sorry, I need some technical help from the direction. Okay, so in this picture, in this clip that has been taken with the help of a drone, you can see one of these riverbanks that has been lowered. And thanks to this intervention, when the flood occurred at half May, the waters flooded the Oxbow Lake behind this riverbank. Now I would like to show you the yard in which these works have been carried out. So here you can see the yard with the works in progress. So this defense work, as we call it, was lowered. So this riverbank has been partly lowered with the help of this crane so that the water could flood the Oxbow Lake, which is extremely useful for the conservation and the renaturation of this riparian area. So thank you for the intervention of Mr. Zanichelli and Miss Filippi. So now I would like to give the floor to the mayor.
River. But it is complicated for me, but I am honorary citizenship of Hadong, so I know very well your fantastic area. Please, you are welcome.
대단히 반갑습니다. 대한민국 하동에서 온 하동 교수 하승철입니다. 우리 섬진강은 섬진강에 대해서 말씀을 드릴 텐데요. 이 대한민국 한반도의 한 맨 가운데 중앙 남해안 쪽에 있는 곳이 우리 하동입니다. 약 200km가 넘는 이 섬진강이 대한민국에서 가장 높은
My city, Hadong, is located in the southeast of Korea. Since ancient times, our ancestors lived in places where it was easy to find drinking water and food. Our markets and villages were created around the river that flows through Hadong, our city. The name of the river is Seomjingang, which is the city of Handong, and it was assessed as having the best, the water having the best in the area. From a geographical standpoint, the basin of our river was a very important area for trade with different nearby villages and countries. The forestry resources in the mountains around the city were another important element. The river resources too played a key role for the development of the city, and the waters were also used to grow rice, which was produced in large amounts, which was the reason why our region was often invaded. The Seomjingang River flows to the sea, and in the areas where they meet, the sand is very fine and the landscape is really beautiful, wonderful sand, which forms thanks to the outflow of the river into the sea. Our river is also known for its wonderful beaches of fine sand. In these pictures, you can see something that has been told, a phenomenon that was also told in our national literature, and which tells about the history of our river. The long tradition of our city, Hadong, is based on the fishing of marsh clams, which are typical and only grow in our city, in our territory. This is a special type of clams that are typically fished in our river and is now World Heritage for fishing marsh clams. Is done as follows. We don't use boats, which is a typical fishing method. We don't use nets up to the riverbed. This is not how we fish marsh clams. What we actually do is what we normally do is we only use a tray, a special type of tray that only collects large marsh clams, so that small clams can continue to grow in the river. This is a traditional method which helps not fish small clams, so that we respect the life in the river. Many tourists visit this area and experiment this fishing method, fishing of marsh clams. This is an important cultural heritage that has a positive impact on the local economy, regional economy. Our city, Hagong, is also famous. Our city, Hadong, is also famous for green tea. In 2022, last year, we calculated the number of families who grow green tea. Over 1,000 families grow wild green tea. Our city is the main city, the main green tea producing city, and it was recognized as one of the most important agricultural centers by the by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. Korea defined this area as a special area for the production of wild green tea, which is a point of excellence, which is recognized, which has been recognized for over 1,200 years since since a very famous dynasty in Korea. So the wild green tea, the production of wild green tea has an over 1,200-year long history in our area. So the cultivation of green tea is one of the key agricultural activities in our area. So our area and green tea is considered as a gift of God for our area. Now, I would like to a very small lake that we have, which is formed by our river. The name of the river is, as I said before, Seomjingang. Seom means toad. So we have a legend according to which 700 years ago, when the Japanese invaded our area, a toad woke the citizens up and informed them, or let them understand, that the Japanese were about to invade the region. This is why toads are so important for us. They saved our lives. And they live along the river. Still along the river, we have a very significant biodiversity, natural biodiversity. We involve the inhabitants of the city in different initiatives, such as, for example, festivals, fishing, hiking, and we like involving children as well. We have many projects on the way to protect our river. And I would like to add and tell you a very nice story. Along our river, in addition to the green tea field, we have a hiking trail, which is called the Cherry Blossom Road, which you can see in this photograph. So, if you come with your lover, or if you come with a friend, you will fall in love. We also have another very romantic festival, which is the welcoming of the moon, and in which we celebrate and officially, formally welcome the moon. You can spend time with your dear ones. We normally spend time taking the Hangong tea, and we watch the light of the moon and listen to Beethoven. So, of course, this is just a short description of our project, our commitments to safeguarding our river that gives us water, energy, and food. Needless to say, I am extremely happy and honored to be here and share our common shared wisdom and to find a better solution to improve the ecosystems and to make the world a better place to live in together.
국민들의 참여와 함께 이렇게 인간과 자연이 공영하는 섬진강을 만들어 나가기 위해서 노력하고 있습니다. 조금 전에
Well, we are working on many projects to protect our ecosystem. We, in order to come here, we have taken a 13-hour flight, but we are honored to be here at this international summit. And I am here to also learn a lot from you. Hopefully, we will be able to put together all our commitments for a better future. Credo che sia stato detto che i fiumi sono la natura, i fiumi sono acqua, ma sono anche leggenda, sono anche storia, perché
is a living element, and the people and the history change, but the river is there. So what we heard now about fall in love with the moon is because there is a sentiment. There is not only something physical. So now the floor to the Vice Mayor of Cittaslow, Sanju, South Korea, Choi Won-jin. He will speak about the repository of tourism resources that embrace the past and the present. So is another element of our speech, our summit, that is about the river as resource, a complex system that we have to manage very, very carefully. Here is the floor, please.
sarà sempre... No, adesso vediamo. No, aspetta.
안녕하세요. 저는 여러분 반갑습니다. 저는 대한민국 상주시 부시장 최.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Choi Woo-jin, Deputy Mayor of Cittaslow, Sangju, Republic of Korea. The mayor looks a bit nicer than I am. He's a bit taller than I am, but he couldn't be here, so I'm his replacement. I apologize for being not as beautiful, as good-looking as he is, and smaller, but I'm really honored to be here with you today. I would like to tell you about a project that we have put in place in our city. And I would like to focus on the development of tourist resources along or around the Nakdong River in Sangjun. And I would like to compare the past and the present. The name of our river comes, the name Nakdong, comes from the river flowing east of our city. This is the longest river in Korea, and it is 522 kilometers. What we are seeing now in this picture shows you a painting that was made in 1832. The picture portrays a part of our history and dates back to 1196. So it dates back to over 827 years ago. The scholars of our city were sailing on our river, the Nakdongang. And here we have a gathering of these scholars to write. This type of gathering enjoying the pleasures of the river and sipping tea in the meantime. So this meeting, this type of meetings were held regularly on a yearly basis. It was the first example of slow life of ancient scholars. The name of this painting is Habgangseong Rock, a difficult name. The next slide is belongs to a very ancient book.
현재의 상주 낙동강에서는 과거에 없던 많은 관광 시설들이 설치되어 있습니다.
Tourism and natural tourism is more aligned with our current slow life principle, or the principle we support of living slow. These images show you a of the Nakdong River, which we saw in the first slide, but the river bed has been changed and the river path has been changed. You see it in these current pictures. We experienced a very quick development which brought about changes to the river as well. We now have many tourist facilities which we didn't have in the past, and which are now which were recently built along the Nakdogang River. This is in this slide. You can see some a view of the island of Kyuncheon. Then we have some pictures taken along the Nakdongang River, where tourists are offered lots of opportunities. We also have some shows and events that are held periodically in specific facilities built along the river. We have many cycling lanes, hiking trails, many large offers for tourists. We also have a literature museum and a history center in Nakdongang. The area around the river has changed enormously if you compare the two photographs you have on this slide. Some people are concerned that this is over development, but our development focuses on the creation of a basis for recreational, non-motor driven sports like hiking, cycling, riding, or paragliding. Which means we try and minimize as much as possible the impact on the natural landscape. This is why we try to develop these type of sports activities. We will make the river, the Nakdongang River, a place where people can relax, go back to their most intimate reality. And to conclude, our city is promoting the development of tourism, always keeping in mind how to put in practice the Cittaslow principle and the principle of slow living that our ancestors believed in from a modern perspective. Ecco, le prossime presentazioni.
How enjoyable is the space around the river and the space around the river. Now we have Dr. Hanna Wiśniewska, Head of Ecological Policy and Nature at the Marshal Office at Varmia Masuria Voivodeship, and she will speak about the role of lakes and rivers in Varmia Masura region.
What you prefer?
Hello, buonasera. My name is Hanna Wiśniewska. I work for the regional... Closer? Okay. So, once again, hello and buonasera. My name is Hanna Wiśniewska. I work for regional government of Varmia and Mazury region in the Department of Environmental Protection. The Varmia and Mazury region is located in northeastern part of Poland. It is the fourth largest region in Poland. It is inhabited by 1.45 million people, and the population density is the lowest in Poland, only 59 people per square kilometer. The region is called the land of 1,000 lakes, but in fact there are over 3,000 lakes in the region, including the largest lake of Poland, Śniardwy, and longest Polish lake, Jeziorak. Many rivers flow through the region, and it is interesting fact that due to geological structure, all the rivers of the region originate in its area. In many cases, rivers flow through lakes, creating a system used as waterways, for example, the system of Great Marian Lakes. The natural environment of Varmia and Mazury is a huge asset of the region, plays important role as ecological corridor on national and European scale. However, progressing economic development entails such problems as enormous pressure on water ecosystem and landscape. So it should be remembered that the waters offer a unique opportunity for the development as long as their natural values are maintained. Over almost 50% of Varmia-Mazury region is protected. To mention only a few forms of nature protection in the region, it is 8 landscape parks, 71 protected landscape areas, 112 nature reserves, and 62 Natura 2000 sites. Warmińsko-Mazurskie has the highest ratio in Poland of that 61 nature reserves out of 112, 50 sites out of 62, and 43 out of 71 protected landscape areas are associated with different types of hydrogenic habitats like lakes, oxbow lakes, peat bogs, or forest in water dependent habitats. But from year to year, more and more agricultural land located by the waters, it's transformed into recreational plots. This process has become very visible recently and is associated with the massive purchase of plots by the lakes or rivers. It is a side effect of COVID-19 pandemic, actually. Unfortunately, rules and restrictions that are enforced in these protected areas are often not respected. Many property owners, knowingly or unknowingly, violate these rules. The most common violations include destruction of water, tree stands, or reed beds, changing the relief and changing the coastline, earthworks changing water conditions, illegal construction, excessive development of the shoreline, using water contrary to the water law permits, uncontrolled felling of trees, burning the meadows, poaching, fencing access to the lakes, and of course littering. So what can we do about this? In order to reduce and minimize the negative impact on the environment in the region, various types of activities are undertaken, like directing tourist traffic, protection of environmentally valuable places by directing tourist traffic to areas that are less sensitive in terms of nature, but still very interesting. Appropriate sustainable access to the natural environment for recreational purposes, creation of facilities for conducting environmental education, and small-scale water retention. And some examples of such activities, like directing tourist traffic by construction of nature trails, some bridges, viewing platforms, appropriate sustainable access to the natural environmental for recreational purposes by also creations of some nature or educational paths, lookouts and piers. Creation of facilities for conducting environmental education like didactic paths or green classrooms. Modernization and adaptation of tourist facilities to the needs of visitors, concentration of tourist traffic on the objects of small wooden architecture. And of course, small-scale water retention, it is extremely important nowadays as it helps to combat both climate change and biodiversity loss, and also helps to adapt to climate change. So we can focus on restoration of wetlands, slowing down the flow of waters, creation of buffer zones in lake catchments, or restoration of peatlands. In years 2018-2021, the regional government of Warmia and Mazury implemented a project raising the standard of the technical base and equipment of landscape parks in the Warmia and Mazury region. It was worth over 4 million euro. And some main goals were to protect valuable natural areas located in landscape parks, to concentrate tourist traffic along educational paths, tourist trails, and main communication routes of landscape parks, and of course to raise ecological awareness of inhabitants and of tourists. So some activities that were implemented, like retrofitting the educational base in landscape park seats, modernization of exhibitions and didactic gardens, development of digital maps of landscape parks, or creation of guide integrated with the mobile application. And also 7 observation towers, 3 like platforms or piers, 19 educational sheds, 2 car parks, 5 nature trails were created. And this project brought not only economic benefits for the developing sustainable tourism, but also some social benefits by shaping appropriate attitudes towards nature and landscape. And maybe many of you know, but maybe not, but region of Warmia and Mazury is considered one of the most beautiful in Poland. And to prove this point, I would like to end my presentation with some short video about beauty of the region. Thank you, grazie.
Thank you so much, Anna Wisniewska, for the Parma-Masuria region. So, we wait the Professor Isotta Cortesi. Isotta Cortesi, welcome, Professor.
Buongiorno.
From the University of Parma. I take the occasion tomorrow the President Migliorini will announce an important memorandum of understanding that we are signing as Cittaslow International with the University of Parma, and Isotta Cortesi is representing the University of Parma, and the Cittaslow International and the University of Parma will be a partner for important interdepartmental projects, so important in the future for any issues. Please.
Buongiorno a tutti, ringrazio, sono onorata di essere qui in rappresentanza della mia università.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm honored to be here in order to represent the Department of Architecture of the University of Parma. I teach landscape architecture. So I teach, as I was pointing out, landscape in a country that I've been crossing in order to reach Parma. So nowadays I keep talking about how the landscape has been built by the humankind, and today we have had many proofs of this. So this occurs through a relationship between man and the natural resources in a mutual process of transformation. This relationship sometimes works properly, whereas sometimes it doesn't work at all. And I try to teach how to find the proper balance in order to nurture this relationship. Of course, the most suitable way is a biocentrical way that wishes to take care of the nature and that wishes to move away from the extractive approach that has so strongly characterized, at least in Europe, our position with respect to natural resources. So we know very well that urbanization in Europe is among the most important regions at the basis of the loss in biodiversity. We know that the soils, the rivers are strongly under pressure, and there is a kind of crisis between the urban settlements and the natural areas. And here in the slides that I'm going to show, you're going to see some examples, and all of them are characterized by water, by rivers, as wealth. And all of these places have been witnessing the strength of the landscaping projects in order to remedy the errors, the mistakes, and to return the beauty of places to the citizens of cities. So after considering the rivers as infrastructures to be exploited, the approach was changed, and the rivers and the water flows have become again areas to be experienced, to be lived by the citizens. The cities I'm showing to you have been building examples of best practices of new relationships with lakes and water streams and rivers. Examples of a correspondence between the places we inhabit and the resources that we use. We inhabit cities thanks to the presence of waters. This relationship, when we turned these water flows and streams and rivers into infrastructures, has been altered, and now it has to be brought back to the origins. Here you can see some extraordinary examples that enable us to understand how the landscape architecture is trying to give some answers to bring back again at the center the landscape designing in order to improve the life of citizens that inhabit these places and these areas, in order to adopt best practices to renature the water flows and rivers, and to build strong meanings for the population that will have them, and to pass them over to their children. So here we can see that the rivers have been brought back to the center of the rebuilding of the cities, no more as infrastructures, and so as warehouses or harbors, but as real centers of huge cities. So also in Europe, in the biggest European cities, the rivers are at the center of the cities. And this is an strategy that has been invited by a French designer, Michel Vigne, that invented the intermediary nature. Speaking of a time in which we have no investors, no money, but in which we return and give back to these areas that have been exhausted a new meaning. So we act through the landscape in order to attach a new meaning to the areas and to the places. In Madrid, for instance, this extraordinary operation has been done. As you can see, the pictures of before and after. A public space has been conquered and has been given back to the inhabitants of Madrid, so that the citizens of Madrid could experience a fundamental resource of the city, exactly as it happened in Pittsburgh and Seattle, as I showed you before in the previous pictures. Here we have an example of intermediate nature here in Bordeaux. So industrial industrial areas that are dismantled and that are planted with new plants and vegetations for the citizens. And in the future, maybe, that will be populated by new inhabitants, and buildings and block of flats will be built. And then here we have the example of Saragossa in Spain with this water park, in which a kind of public swimming pool has been created so that people can swim and bathe in the river waters. So, in the example of Saragossa, the citizens fall in love again with the public places, and man learns how it is important to attach the proper value to shapes and forms, because the shapes and forms of the public built objects do belong to the citizens. So as answering to the changing times and turning catastrophes into added value, as it is happening along the Po River, in which the spaces occupied by water are multiplied. I would like to show you the very last presentation talking about the spaces devoted to water, because one of my famous colleagues teaching in Harvard states that the rivers no longer exist, but that now we do have water territories. The man created the rivers by embracing the extractive approach in order to obtain food and food safety and to protect themselves and their inhabited areas. So this is why man constructed and built the rivers. But in these beautiful images of a French designer in Korea, you can see a kind of ancient river as it was before the transformation and reclaiming interventions made by man. This was an expo onto a river. So I'm very much happy to show you pictures from Europe and then from Asia, because we've got many representatives of the Asian countries, and we've got to learn a lot from them. We all are to learn together how to manage the climate change, but we must all make the most of the abilities, the skills, and the competencies coming from the past in managing the waters. In all of these pictures, you could see projects that have been carried out in Asia. I would skip some pictures and I would stop here talking about the Po River. Here you can see the different transformation and the changes of the countryside along the Po River. The landscape, of course, is central because it is food, it is agriculture, it is resource, it is life, but it is living. So we must not use strength onto it, but we must build a renewed relationship with the river. So we must completely and wholly rethink our relationship with the river in a playful dimension, so that the river can really become a value and an attraction. But we are also to learn how to deal and to cope with the issues that are related to the river, such as drought, and so extremes that characterize the life of the Po River. I would like to stop here and to focus on this slide. What are the possible future scenarios urban future scenarios related to rivers. Rivers have been transformed into infrastructures by man. We've been using strength upon them in order to confine their flows, and now we have to nurture a new relationship, and a harmonious one. I would like to conclude my intervention by showing you this picture relating to Switzerland, where back in 2011, extremely strict concerning water protection. And so all the works that have been made in order to rectify the river flows, and all the works that have been performed in order to create new channels aside of the rivers. And now there is an invitation to renaturation. And so there is a colleague, a prestigious colleague working in Geneva, rebuilt the riverbed of this river by introducing squares. And these landscape designers knows that the creation of these squares in the riverbeds will attract animals and wildlife, and wildlife and plants in the future will recreate a new harmonious balance between man, an urbanized environment, and the natural environment. So environmental ethics and environmental aesthetic are fundamental in order to attach new value to the actions that man takes. Nature acts alone. Thanks to the wind and to the wildlife, the landscape here has been revitalized. Time is needed in order to revitalize the ecosystem. And there, in that area near Geneva, this area has been turned into a park. I'm from Parma, but I teach in Naples too, and I come from Naples, and I've been organizing 3 different seminars in which the landscape was put at the center. So the landscape represents a resource, represents energy and resources for the future. So the landscape has to be put back to the center. For after the 3 symposia I have been organizing, I decided to organize a master degree, an international master degree involving the Milan Polytechnic and focusing on the Po River. So the man and the biosphere protected areas will become revalorization areas through this master degree. So thank you very much, Isotta, for this wonderful presentation that gave us not only a very precise indication. We come from a relationship with rivers dictated either by speculation or by an engineering and functional approach. And now we must revolutionize this state of mind and way of thinking. The river is a complex system that is to be revalorized and renatured.
Professor Xiong Guangping, Director of the Territory Spatial Planning and Design Research Center of Jiangbei New Area Innovation Research Institute of the Southeast University in Nanjing, China.
thank you for the Cittaslow and thank you for Oni, which gave me an opportunity to presentation to introduce our work in Yaxi Cittaslows. And now the topic I want to introduce is the water culture and the Cittaslow. I come from the Southern Eastern University of China. My introduce about 5 apart. Part 1, China is one of countries with the richest river and lake in the world. And in the first known river are 2 from China, is Changjiang River and the Yangtze River. Also, China has many big lakes, but now many river and the water's environment is damaged now. So how to protect the water environment and the water culture was more important now in China. And the Yaxi Snow City had many lake, river, wetland. What is culture, water culture? Water culture refers to all the water-related cultures created by people with water and water activity. They include waterfall, water engineer, water tour, water environment, water landscape, and so on. In China, and all the water as a lake include lake water culture, and the river culture, and the ocean culture. Part 2, what's the value of evolution of the water culture? Part 3, what we do, what happened in Yaxi Cittaslow. I sure there's object is international ecological slow city. Also the Jiangnan landscape garden. First is international slow city. Second is a big garden, I see. So first, I should protect the lake, river, mountain, and all natural resource in the slow city of Yaxi. The second, we will plan 5 topics: is nice slow city, agricultural slow city, cultural slow city, ecological slow city, and the natural slow city. Also, we plan 7 gardens in the slow city. The first is the Dashan Garden. Also, this garden was a creature experience, and the manual picking also depend on the water. The second garden is Mujiazhuang Garden. And this garden, I showed many woodland castles and woodland island and recreation slow land and recreation slow flowing wetland. Also in the villages around the village. The third garden is Qiaoli. And this have many team, and also we have many the field quality development is Yaodang. Yaodang is consists of many hotel. All the hotels in the forest. All forest is along the river. So we can have many outdoor plant growth in the Yaodang garden. The first is the Jinxi Garden. Jinxi is a very big lake. Around the big lake, I have many sloped land and many cycle greenway around the lake, so people can go there. Also, the second garden, we use the very slow road to connect the self garden. So the red, yellow is inside the garden The red net is contact the self-guarded. This is the slowest land planning and design. We see also people and bicycle can go. The second, I showed renature the river, renature the water. So some the black and waters renature and clear the water. And around the reservoirs, I should give some plant and some bird, or I should also renature the lake. This is the river of renature. This is some the dynamic mountain. Maybe you build a house, so we diameter the mountain. So now we renature and grade the mountain. Conclusion, the part 5. And water culture is a culture formed by water and water activity. Water culture is a culture from development be connected between the water and the human and the social life. On continued natural sites of Slow City, World Tom, and the Jiangnan countryside. So we do some design or build the green water and green mountain, Slow Lake City. They build a big garden in the whole area. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Xiang Guoping. Very deep water culture in China. Thanks, and in Yashi. Now it is the time of the last speech, but not one of the most important, by our Vice President of Cittaslow International, the Dr. Josh Essels, the Mayor of Ekshusteren, Cittaslow. He was in a few months ago appointed as coordinator of the Dutch Cittaslow network. Thank you. And he is speaking about the Meuse River project, Progetto de Fiume Mosa. At the end, if somebody of you would to have a question to our speakers, you can, please.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Per Giorgio. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, it is a pleasure and an honor to be invited to come and speak here in Polesine Zibello, a place that felt like home as soon as I arrived here. In so many respects, it reminds me of the Meuse River in our home region. Also, like the Po River here, it is a large river in the lowland area with a central position and with similar challenges like flooding and dryness, and also similar opportunities in tourism, nature, cycling, and natural biodiversity. You see, along with values that are quintessentially Cittaslow, are found in both your and my home region. Therefore, let me tell you more about it in a short video.
No.
In the 90s, Meuse burst its banks twice in quick succession, bringing serious flooding. Fortunately, there were few human casualties, but it did cause severe material damage on both sides. At that time, however, our Belgian neighbors were far less likely affected, with the Dutch side bearing the brunt of the devastation. It was to prevent problems like this that the border Meuse construction was founded. Its mission is simple: to keep people safe and dry, and on the other hand, create new nature and tourism facilities. To this end, the consortium widened the riverbed by around 300 hectares, lowered the river banks, and reinforced and raised the height of dikes along a 12-kilometer stretch. There are times when we have too much water, and others where we don't have enough. It was for these dry periods that large reservoirs were created. The Waterhouse project is the biggest river project underway in the Netherlands, with a total cost of more than 700 million euros. However, those by the proceeds from raw materials extracted from within the project. The project began in 2008 and is currently on track to be completed on December 31st in 2027. Tens of thousands of families who live along the roads are now at far less risk of flooding. Should water levels rise like they did during the floods of 93 and 95, towns and villages in our province of Limburg will no longer find themselves submerged. This was put most seriously to the test by the extreme high water in the summer of 2021. This is why this project is vitally important. The project and its implementation embody the Cittaslow values. Economic gain, for instance, is just one piece of the puzzle and serves also to finance the work and of course our safety. In a balanced approach, these considerations are combined with river widening, in other words, flood risk management and rewilding. Over 1,000 hectares have been given back to nature. These ecological restoration measures are also creating space for recreation use, including dozens of kilometers of hiking trails, footpath and cycling trails, nature trails, watching spots, etc. Building more leisure tourists to our new region, by which I mean the Limburg and the surrounding areas of Belgium and Germany. This is the exact area of the first trilateral Cittaslow region of the world, with Belgium as the west, Ireland and Switzerland in the middle, and from tomorrow on, the brand new German Cittaslow Zeltland in the east. In short, many key pillars of this Cittaslow philosophy go hand in hand in this Cittaslow region par excellence. What makes the project even more special are the wide-ranging forms of citizen engagement. Residents are consulted at every opportunity about the work being carried out. Every means possible of giving the public say is used. People from different parts of society also go together in times of need. This was certainly the case when tackling the flooding of 2021. We cooperated with all the council staff and employees of our government organizations. They watch teams with diverse skills, all of them volunteers. With such short lines of communication, we can agree on action quickly in times of crisis. To conclude, a project that started to create a safe and sustainable place to live alongside the waters of the river eventually created a new area with huge opportunities for nature, tourism, solidarity, and quality of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. There was appreciation for this project from all over the world. An article in the British newspaper The Guardian declared that all the world's rivers should look like the Bordermeuse, with plenty of space and fringed by wild nature. And at the United Nations conference, this project was cited as the epitome of the need for more biodiversity in the world. But of course, the appreciation for this project, by having the opportunity to give this speech and share our history, our story at the very first Cittaslow Summit on Rivers and Lakes, is very important for our Cittaslow. Therefore, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all speakers, to you all for attention. Please, if you have some question, the floor is yours, please. If you haven't any question, I call the mayor for the last. Prego, signor Sindaco, saluto finale. And I thank you once time more, and I announce that we will have planned the second edition of this summit. This is the zero number, is the first, after 2 years, in 2025, here in this area, in the Polesine Zibello, and then the appointment is to work together in a permanent working group, inter-Cittaslow and also inter-universities, to work in this topic so strategic and so important for our present and future. Please, Mayor, prego, dottore, caro
Bene.
Massimo Spigaroli.
Allora, è stato
So it was definitely a pleasure. This is the first of many important days. The second day tomorrow morning in Parma will be another important event for the summit with many interesting topics. What I would like to point out is that it's important for us all to meet, to exchange ideas. I've followed all your presentations with great attention. I've followed with great attention all your water systems, all the water which are different from one another. What we would like to, what we aim at, what we long for is to bring people back to the river, to renaturate the river in order for us to see the river as we've always imagined it in our minds, as we've always conceived of it in our minds. In addition to becoming an environmental, let's say, issue, something closer and closer to the population, our wish is that rivers may become a tourist attraction and may leverage on the economy of the territory. So our wish is that everybody living close to the river may live a more natural life than people living in big cities. Later on in the evening, we will have a great event, the 23rd of June. The local tradition is to have dinner in yards or in large celebrations in hamlets. You will see lots of people dining with us to eat a specialty of the territory, which is filled pasta with ricotta cheese and spinach, and of course Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. Ricotta cheese, as I was saying, butter and beets or spinaches. And this is a typical tradition in our local cooking. This is a typical local food. We celebrate Saint John, and traditionally this day was a day eating meat. This was the summer solstice, and we could feel summer today. Think what our ancestors thought to bypass the prohibition. They just took a very, very food and they put all the ingredients together and created this recipe. Tortelli must be soaked in butter and dried with Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. This is our motto. But you will try tortelli pretty soon. We will be guests of an association. Hopefully you will understand and get a taste of tortelli. Tomorrow you will have a tasting session of all our local products. for lunch. In the evening, we will have dinner at the fortress of Fontanellato, which is an ancient mansion surrounded by water. We have the mayor of Fontanellato here. Everything is planned, everything is organized. And on Sunday, those who wish will be able to visit, will have an opportunity to visit another slow food city, that is Borgotaro and Pellegrino Parmense. Thank you all. I apologize for this very hot weather, but this is how the weather is at this time of year here in Italy. We're used to it. And you see, this is a place dating back to the 18th century, and we couldn't do any better as well as far as heat is concerned. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Massimo Spigaroli, who always speaks to his heart. Let me tell you that the consortium of Culatello di Zibello is one of the main sponsors of our summit. So it was thanks to the consortium that we managed to organize the summit here. Thank you very much for your commitment.
The shuttle bus is leaving about 7 o'clock from the square. We have the time for the aperitif, spritz, aperol, aperitif. Okay.